In a country that presents contradictions in staggering diversity, it is fundamental to have dissent. Because dissent stems debate. And 2016 may be remembered as the year of the dissenter in India. Free men will have free thoughts, and a democracy will allow them to be aired freely. But how does one define dissent? Is it a constitutional right? Is there a right to protest? Is there a correct way to dissent? 2016 saw the country stand divided and politically charged. So who was the dissenter in 2016? "2016 began with a death. 17 days into the year, a 26-year-old decided that he did not want to live anymore. Rohith Vemula used his own death to protest the life he had been made to live. The second-year PhD student of Hyderabad Central University hung himself in a hostel room, symbolically with a blue banner of the Ambedkar Students Association, leaving behind a suicide note that tore into India's conscience. Rohith dissented being labelled casteist and anti-national because he spoke up as a Dalit. Rohith wrote, "My birth is my fatal accident." His final act of protesting caste-based discrimination in India's elite educational institutions was to go away forever.
Who is national and who is anti-national? They have started giving him a certificate.
An act of extreme disillusionment that acted as a catalyst to what happened at another campus 1,200 kilometers away. On 17th of February 2016, Kanhaiya Kumar was attacked by rowdy lawyers in New Delhi's Patiala House Court complex. Arrested on charges of sedition, Kumar, the Jawaharlal Nehru University Students' Union leader, was being presented for remand proceedings. The disconcerting fact, a similar mob of lawyers had attacked journalists reporting the story and students supporting Kanhaiya 2 days ago at the same court premises. Earlier that month, on 9th of February, a small group of JNU students organized an event to protest against what they termed the judicial killing of Parliament attack convict Afzal Guru and Kashmiri separatist Maqbool Butt, despite the university withdrawing permission for the protest rally. The group convened to express solidarity with the struggle of the Kashmiri people, citing their freedom of speech. Another group of students from the right-wing ABVP protested the event, calling it anti-national. In the ensuing fracas, slogans were raised, some of which were termed anti-national. A video of the event went viral on social media. 4 days later, the Delhi police arrested Kanhaiya on charges of sedition and criminal conspiracy. While Union Home Minister Rajnath Singh tweeted that anyone who shouts anti-India slogans and challenges the nation's sovereignty and integrity while living in India will not be tolerated or spared. It was later revealed that the anti-national slogans were not raised by JNU students but outsiders. The JNU row soon escalated to the corridors of Parliament. Opposition leaders stood in support of the students and their right to free speech. Some BJP leaders asked that JNU, a well-known, largely left-aligned, politically conscious university, should be shut down. Mass protests followed, with many accusing the government of shutting down criticism against its ideology. The incident deeply divided India and threw up questions on dissent and the right to free speech, on sedition and what constitutes as anti-national. Whether dissent is anti-national. Many argued that the move to arrest and slap sedition charges against students was a direct assault on the right to dissent and the right-wing government's attempt to clamp down on free speech. On 2nd of March 2016, Kanhaiya was granted bail and was welcomed back in the campus like a hero.
भारत से नहीं मेरे भाइयों, भारत में आजादी मांग रहे हैं।
Teenage boys defiantly flinging stones at the police and paramilitary personnel in the lanes of downtown Srinagar. Hurling abuses, dodging tear gas shells, fighting the indiscriminate firing of pellets and rubber bullets. The 2016 Kashmir unrest was one of the worst the valley witnessed in over a decade, harking back to the days of 90s when militancy lay rampant in the valley. The violent protest started with the killing of Hizbul militant Burhan Wani by security forces in early July 2016. But the anger was simmering long before. Disdain for the heavy militarization, rage over repeated human rights violation, widespread unemployment, and a growing clamor for Azadi burst out, and the weapon of dissent, stones. This wasn't the first time the valley retaliated with stones. Stone pelting or Kanijang has long been an act of resistance in the valley. In 2008, stones made an appearance after the agitation over Amarnath land transfer, and later again during the agitation in the summer of 2010. This summer, however, it became a daily affair. By August, the protest had spread like wildfire across the valley. Curfew and shutdown in place for a month. Internet and mobile services blocked. Some newspapers shut down. The valley virtually cut off. Security forces cracked down on the stone pelters with rubber bullets, then the controversial pellets, and later power shells, resulting in the death of around 100, many of them below the age of 20. Thousands of others were grievously injured with permanent disabilities. As the violence continued to escalate, the numbers piled up in the valley. Questions were raised about the inaction of the government, both at the centre and in Srinagar, to defuse the situation. Many protested the use of excessive force to curb dissenting voices in the valley. It was this dramatic spectacle that made Trupti Desai synonymous with the fight for women's right to pray in temples across the country. She refused to abide by age-old customs that prohibit women from entering certain places of worship and vociferously registered her dissent. The valiant fight that she put up ruffled many feathers and made her the poster girl of the movement. 4 months of agitation bore fruit and put an end to a 400-year-old custom. The trust of Maharashtra's Shani Shignapur temple finally permitted women to enter the temple and offer prayers in the sanctum sanctorum. The decision came after the Bombay High Court made it clear that it was incumbent upon the state government to ensure that the Maharashtra Hindu Places of Worship Entry Authorization Act 1956 was properly enforced. This was just the beginning. 13 days later, Trupti Desai and other women activists offered prayers at the inner sanctum of Nashik's Trayambakeshwar temple, that is one of the 12 Jyotirlingas. Desai's entry into the inner sanctum came a day after activists of Pune-based Swarajya Mahila Sangatana offered prayers inside the Garbhagriha of the shrine. The Bhumata Brigade then set its eyes on another no-go area for women devotees, the Haji Ali Dargah. Their first visit ended in an unruly scuffle with the police after locals objected to Trupti's attempt to enter the shrine. Trupti Desai offered prayers at the Dargah but skipped venturing into the inner chamber of the shrine where women were not allowed. In August, the Bombay High Court, in its landmark judgment, lifted the ban imposed by Haji Ali Trust on women from entering the inner sanctum of the shrine. The court observed that any such restrictions on women will need constitutional scrutiny. As a huge triumph for the fight for equality by women activists, the Supreme Court too upheld the right for women to enter Haji Ali Dargah's inner sanctum. Not only did this movement open many a temple door for women, it also raised some pertinent questions. Not merely about the right to pray or about gender discrimination, but also about having complete access to all places, irrespective of caste, creed, religion or gender. It was instrumental in generating a new and very public discourse on topics an unusual political movement stirred up the country in 2016. A move to abolish OBC Dalit reservations. A permanent provision in government employment opportunities and educational institutes since the early years of India's independence. This time, the dissenters were those who have traditionally held the reins of power. It was the dominant class or the majority which was up in arms or raising slogan. They claimed existing reservations were depriving their youth from traditionally prosperous means of employment. Instead, they wanted reservations to be rolled back or new ones to be created for affluent communities. In July 2016, when 22-year-old Hardik Patel stepped out of a prison in Gujarat, it was a pivotal moment for this movement, the Patidar movement. Inspired by another agitation of the Gujjar community in neighboring Rajasthan, July 2015 had witnessed the movement gain support in Prime Minister Modi's bastion, Gujarat. The socio-economically affluent Patidar community, many of whom carry the name Patel, demanded a special reservation under the OBC quota. The agitation had taken a violent turn in 2015 when supporters of the movement set fire to state transport buses and blocked roads in several cities. putting Hardik Patel in jail. Inspired by the Patels, the Jat community in North India, which accounts for 29% of Haryana's population, demanded reservation under the OBC quota. The agitation in April 2016 turned violent as supporters burned down business establishments, blocked off highways and damaged vehicles in Haryana and neighbouring Delhi NCR. Although the Haryana government agreed to create a special reservation, the Punjab and Haryana High Court later quashed the bill. The Jat agitation, however, sparked a new enthusiasm in the Patidar movement. In almost a domino effect, leaders of several other Gujarat communities, including the Brahmin, Thakur, Vaishnava, Rajput, Sindhi, Kansara, Soni and Raghuvanshi communities also started agitating for reservation along similar lines. While rival communities, which already enjoyed OBC status, opposed the agitation. Dissent of a similar nature was also brewing in another western state. Maharashtra's largest and politically dominant community, the Marathas, were pouring out on the streets, demanding the scrapping of the Dalit Atrocities Act. It started as a protest over the brutal gang rape and murder of a minor girl, but it went on to become a clamour to abolish the Prevention of Atrocities Against SC/ST Act 1989, formulated to protect discrimination and fan the growing rage over reservations. What made the Mammoth movement stand out from any other in the history of the state was the fact that it seemed apolitical. It had no political face leading the march. There were also silent protests. The movement became a platform to push for the long-pending demand of the Marathas for a reservation for their community. The massive mass protests across the state also highlighted the underlying grouse the dominant community felt about SC/ST reservations. The agitation sparked debates on reservations, India's caste system in a modern-day context, caste-based vote bank politics, and insufficient opportunities for youth across India. Cow carcasses dumped outside the district collector's office in the small town of Surendranagar in Gujarat as a mark of protest. A protest which had the potential to arouse the oppressed Dalit population against the system, and that it did. This was done by members of the Dalit community that forms only 7% of Gujarat's population. But the voice of their movement rippled across the nation. The civic body of Surendranagar had to bury over 80 dead animals because the Dalits, who have traditionally taken care of such menial jobs, refused to dispose them, citing threat from local cow vigilante groups. The same happened in several villages of Gandhinagar, Mehsana and Ahmedabad district. The movement found a face in 35-year-old Jignesh Mewani. It was Mewani who mobilized the community to protest the brutal assault of 4 Dalit men by cow protection vigilantes in Una. The incident, which was a tipping point for many from the community. Following the incident, Jignesh Mewani gave a call for a march from Ahmedabad to Una, which started with a group of about 100 people but drew a sizable crowd over 10 days and 350 kilometers. Stung by Dalit backlash in his own state, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made an emotional appeal.
वार करना है तो मुझ पे करिए, मेरे दलित भाइयों पर वार करना बंद कर दीजिए। वार करना है तो मुझ पे कीजिए, गोली चलानी है तो मुझ पे चलाइए, मेरे दलित भाइयों पर मत चलाइए।
The movement became an embarrassment for the Prime Minister, who has long hailed Gujarat as a shining example of India's economic progress. It was for the very first time that Dalits spontaneously came together in large numbers to protest an atrocity committed over performing a caste-forced occupation. It happened without any effort to organize the protests, without the usual Dalit leaders being involved. More unexpectedly, this was the first time that Dalits en masse refused to carry on with their age-old occupations unless guarantees were given by the government to protect them. These were the dissenters who raised their voices and rallied against the government and the system, questioning existing definitions of freedom, patriotism, equality, and most importantly, democracy. After all, what is a democracy without its noise and chaos? Without dissent and disagreement? Without a difference of opinion? 2016 played out with dissent keeping alive the voice of democracy in India. But sadly, oftentimes the dissent and its suppression was harsh, bloody, and violently unproductive in the end.